Welcome. Masters are talking. Subscribe.
Welcome to our deep dive into the Kojiki. It's one of the most important texts in Japanese culture, and it's a chronicle of myths and legends. That give us a peek into ancient Japan's beliefs and values. Get ready for some wild stories of deities, monsters, and heroes, because we're about to unlock some serious ancient wisdom.
Yeah, it really is fascinating how the Kojiki blends history and mythology.
Yeah.
It's not just a collection of fantastical tales. It's actually considered Japan's oldest historical record.
That is
So in a
smart.
way, it offers us a glimpse into a world where gods and humans interacted.
It really does set the stage for understanding Japan's cultural DNA, right?
Yeah.
So let's start at the very beginning. At the creation myth, I've got excerpts from the Kojiki right here. And
Sure.
trust me, the imagery is incredible. It's not your typical let there be light kind of
Oh
story.
no, it's so much more. It's visceral and evocative. So picture this. The world starts as this formless void, just this swirling, oily sea, and then a single reed shoot emerges, symbolizing the first spark of creation.
Okay, so we've got our first sign of life. But how does this watery world become solid land?
Well, that's where the jeweled spear comes in. The Kojiki tells us that the deities used this spear to churn the sea, and as they lifted it, droplets fell and solidified, forming the islands of Japan. So it's this powerful image of the divine shaping the physical world.
This creation story is already so unique. So who are the deities that are responsible for creating these islands?
So the Kojiki introduces us to Izanagi and Izanami, this divine couple tasked with bringing order to this newly formed world. And they stand on this heavenly bridge, and they perform a ritual, circling a celestial pillar, their movements mirroring the creative forces of the universe.
I'm already sensing a theme of ritual and order here. Like every step has a specific purpose, almost a cosmic choreography guiding creation.
Exactly, but as with any good story, there's a twist. Izanami, who's very eager to begin, speaks first when they meet, breaking the established protocol, and this seemingly small misstep has huge consequences.
Oh no, what happens?
Their first child, Hiruko, is born deformed, unable to stand, and they set him adrift in a boat of reeds. It's a poignant symbol of their failed attempt, and even their next creation, the island of Aha, is deemed unsuccessful. So imagine the pressure they must have felt.
Talk about a cosmic learning curve. So how do they fix things?
Well, they ascend to the heavens to seek guidance from the heavenly deities, and the answer they receive is that Izanami had spoken out of turn, disrupting the balance of the ritual. It's a powerful reminder that even in the realm of the gods, order and balance are paramount.
So they go back to the heavenly bridge for a do-over.
Precisely. This time they perform the ritual correctly, with Izanagi initiating the greeting. And finally, their creations are successful. They give birth to the islands of Japan, each with its own distinct beauty and character.
I'm picturing the Kojiki as a giant map, with each island bursting with stories and symbolism. It's like a land born from myth.
Yes, and they don't just create the land. Izanagi and Izanami also bring forth a multitude of deities, representing various aspects of nature: mountains, rivers, winds, storms, all the forces that shape the world.
Wow, so they're populating the world with divine energy, weaving the spiritual and the physical together. It's giving me goosebumps.
Okay.
But wait, you mentioned earlier that things take a dark turn.
Sadly, yes. Izanami's final creation, the fire deity Kagutsuchi, proves fatal. She's badly burned during childbirth and descends to Yomi, the underworld.
Oh no, what happens to Izanagi?
He's devastated by the loss of his wife and decides to journey to Yomi to bring her back. It's this perilous quest driven by love and grief. But what he finds in Yomi is truly horrifying.
I'm already getting chills. What does he see?
Izanami is no longer the radiant goddess he knew. She's decaying, monstrous. With 8 thunder deities inhabiting her corrupted form, the Kojiki doesn't shy away from the grotesque details. Izanagi, terrified, flees back to the world of the living. Pursued by these creatures from the underworld, it's a scene straight out of a nightmare.
So there's this permanent separation now between the world of the living and the world of the dead. And Izanagi is forever changed by his encounter with death and decay.
Yes, and this sets the stage for a pivotal ritual in Shintoism: purification. Upon returning from Yomi, Izanagi undergoes a series of cleansing rites, and as he washes himself in a river, even more deities are born.
Wait, what? He washes himself and deities appear?
Yes, it's a powerful symbol of renewal and transformation. From his left eye emerges Amaterasu, the sun goddess, destined to become one of the most important figures in Japanese mythology.
Wow. Okay, we need to dive into Amaterasu's story, but first, tell me more about this concept of purification. Why is it so central to Shintoism?
So in Shinto thought, purity is essential for maintaining harmony between humans, nature, and the divine. So Izanagi's purification ritual demonstrates how even after contact with death and impurity, renewal and rebirth are possible. It's a concept that resonates throughout Japanese culture, even today.
So even though Izanagi went through this terrifying experience, he emerged purified and brought forth a new era with the birth of Amaterasu. It's like the cycle of death and rebirth,
What?
but on a cosmic scale. Now, what about Amaterasu's siblings? You mentioned she had 2 brothers, right?
Yes, she has a brother, Tsukiyomi, who becomes the ruler of the night, and another brother, Susano-o, whose name in the Kojiki is quite a mouthful. His swift, impetuous male augustness, he's given dominion over the seas, but let's just say he has a bit of a rebellious streak.
Oh boy, that name doesn't exactly sound peaceful and harmonious. What kind of trouble does he stir up?
Well, think sibling rivalry, taken to a whole new, divine level. Susano's actions are outrageous. He destroys Amaterasu's rice fields, throws a flayed pony into her sacred weaving hall, and even, well, let's just say he defiles her palace in a rather unsavory manner.
What? That's way beyond normal sibling rivalry. How does Amaterasu react to all of this?
She's understandably horrified
Yep.
and retreats into a cave, sealing herself off from the world. And remember, she's the sun goddess, so her disappearance plunges the world into darkness.
Uh-oh. This sounds like a major cosmic crisis. What do the other deities do? I mean, how do you coax a sun goddess out of hiding?
Well, they throw a divine party, of course.
Wait, seriously? A
Yeah.
party?
Yeah. It's one of the most humorous and creative episodes in the Kojiki. Imagine all the deities gathered outside the cave, just making a ruckus, with music and dancing and laughter, hoping to pique Amaterasu's curiosity.
I can't help but picture it like a cosmic block party. Were there snacks? Karaoke? Any details?
Well, Kojiki unfortunately doesn't go into those specifics, but it does mention a rather ingenious trick they use. So they place a mirror outside the cave, hoping that when Amaterasu sees her own reflection, she'll be drawn out by her own brilliance.
Oh, that's clever. It's like the ultimate "who's that gorgeous goddess" moment. It appeals to her vanity.
Yeah, you could say that.
Yeah.
But it's more about reminding her of her own power and radiance, the light that the world needs. And it works. Lured by the commotion and intrigued by the mirror, Amaterasu emerges from the cave, restoring light to the world.
Crisis averted. But what about Susano-o? Does he get away with his bad behavior?
Not exactly. He's punished and banished from the heavens for his disruptive actions. It really reinforces that idea of balance and harmony that we talked about earlier. You know, Susano's antics upset that cosmic order, and he has to be removed to restore it.
So there are consequences even for deities. It's a reminder that our actions have ripple effects, even if we don't see them right away. But the Kojiki isn't just about these grand cosmic dramas, right? There are also those fascinating beast legends and hero tales that you mentioned earlier.
Absolutely. And they're just as insightful as the creation myths, offering glimpses into the values and beliefs of ancient Japan. Let's start with the story of the white hare of Inaba. It's a tale about compassion, trickery, and the importance of following good advice.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Okay, so the story begins with a hare. He's stranded on an island, and he tricks some crocodiles into forming a bridge so he can reach the mainland.
Clever hare.
Yes, but his cleverness gets the better of him. He boasts to the crocodiles about his trick, and the last crocodile in line, feeling betrayed, attacks him, stripping him of his fur. So the poor hare is left in terrible pain.
That's awful. What happens next?
Well, he encounters a group of 80 deities, but they give him terrible advice, suggesting that he bathes in salt water and lie in the wind. Of course, this only makes his pain worse. It highlights the danger of arrogance and the importance of seeking wise counsel.
So it's a cautionary tale, wrapped up in a fable.
Exactly. But then, along comes Okuninushi, also known as Great Name Possessor. He's one of the most important deities in the Kojiki, and he takes pity on the hare.
Finally, someone with a bit of compassion. What does he do?
He tells the hare to wash in fresh water and roll in the pollen of sedges. And guess what? The hare is healed.
Simple yet effective. It's like ancient wisdom meets natural remedies.
Right. And as a reward for his kindness, the hare prophesizes that Okuninushi will win the hand of Princess Yakami, even though 80 deities are vying for her. So it sets the stage for Okuninushi's eventual rule over the terrestrial world.
So this seemingly simple story about a hare is actually layered with meaning. It establishes Okuninushi as a compassionate and wise deity, qualities that make him a worthy ruler. It's amazing how the Kojiki uses these animal fables to convey deeper messages.
Yeah, it is. And it's a testament to the storytelling prowess of the Kojiki's compilers. They knew how to weave together entertainment and moral lessons, making these stories both captivating and insightful.
Speaking of captivating, what about that eight-headed serpent you mentioned earlier? The one with trees growing on its back.
Ah, yes, the legendary Yamato no Orochi. Now, that's a creature that embodies both terror and fascination. The Kojiki describes it in vivid detail. 8 heads, 8 tails, moss and trees growing on its back, stretching across 8 valleys and 8 hills, and its belly is all bloody and inflamed.
Okay, that's officially terrifying. It sounds like something out of a nightmare.
It is. It's a creature of immense power, representing the forces of chaos that threaten to engulf the world. But luckily, a hero steps in to confront this monstrous being.
Susano-o. Wait, Susano-o? Isn't he the one who caused all that trouble with Amaterasu?
The very same. It's fascinating how the Kojiki presents him as both a trickster and a hero. So in this story, he uses his cunning to slay the serpent, eventually discovering the legendary sword Kusanagi in its tail.
Wow, so even a troublemaker can have heroic moments. I guess it's a reminder that people are complex and capable of both good and bad deeds. But what about this sword Kusanagi? Why is it so important?
Well, Kusanagi becomes a symbol of imperial power, passed down through generations, and its discovery in the tail of a slain serpent adds to its mythical significance. You know, the Kojiki is full of these symbolic objects, each one imbued with meaning and power.
It's like they're not just objects, they're vessels of stories and legends. Holding Kusanagi would be like holding a piece of history.
Exactly. And speaking of history, the Kojiki also introduces us to a human hero, Yamato-take, known in the text as Yamato-take. His story is full of daring exploits, but it ultimately ends in tragedy.
Sounds intriguing. Tell me more about Yamato-take's adventures.
Well, he's this skilled warrior, sent on a series of missions to conquer and pacify the eastern lands. He's known for his strength and cunning. In one episode, he even disguises himself as a woman to defeat some Kumaso braves.
Wow, talk about a master of disguise. It sounds like something out of a spy thriller. But you said his story ends in tragedy.
Yes, his victories come at a cost. He faces betrayal, endures hardships, and eventually succumbs to illness, dying far from home. And in a truly poetic twist, he transforms into a white bird.
So even the greatest heroes are vulnerable. It adds a layer of pathos to his story, doesn't it?
It does. His story beautifully illustrates the bittersweet nature of heroism. His triumphs are intertwined with sorrow, and his legacy is this poignant blend of strength and fragility.
Yeah, it really makes you realize that heroism isn't just about grand victories. It's also about facing challenges with courage and resilience, even when the odds are stacked against you.
Right. And yep, in Yamato-take's case,
Yeah.
that transformation into a white bird suggests a kind of transcendence, a return to a pure spiritual form.
It's a beautiful image, full of symbolism. I'm noticing a recurring theme here of transformation and change, from that swirling chaos of the creation myth to the purification rituals, and even the hero's metamorphosis. It seems like nothing stays static in the Kojiki.
You're absolutely right. It reflects a worldview that really embraces the cyclical nature of life, death, and rebirth. You know, it reminds us that change is inevitable. And even in the face of loss and hardship, there's always the potential for renewal.
It's a powerful message, especially for anyone going through a difficult time. It's like the Kojiki is saying, hang in there, transformation is coming. But I'm curious about something. We've talked about the gods, the heroes, the monsters, but what about the women in the Kojiki? What are their roles, and how are they portrayed?
That's a great question. The Kojiki offers a complex and sometimes contradictory view of women. You have these powerful goddesses like Amaterasu, who embodies the life-giving force of the sun. And then you have figures like Princess Otokachibana, Yamato-take's wife, who sacrifices herself to calm the stormy seas.
So there's this spectrum of representation, from powerful deities to self-sacrificing figures. How do we make sense of that?
Well, it's important to remember that the Kojiki was compiled in the 8th century, a time when Japan was transitioning towards a more centralized system, where men held more power than women over time. And this societal shift is reflected in the text.
So some of those representations might be influenced by the evolving gender roles of that era?
Exactly. The Kojiki is a product of its time, a reflection of the complexities and contradictions of its historical context. So it's not about judging these stories by today's standards, but rather understanding them within their historical framework.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like trying to understand a conversation from centuries ago. You need to listen with both ears open and consider the cultural context. So We've explored the creation myths, the divine dramas, the beast legends, the hero tales, the role of women. What else is hidden within the pages of the Kojiki?
Well, beyond those grand narratives, there are all these fascinating smaller stories, almost like folk tales, scattered throughout the text. They offer these glimpses into everyday life, beliefs about nature, and even humorous anecdotes about the deities.
Give me an example. I love a good quirky folktale.
Okay, one that comes to mind is the story of the deity who eats a boiled leech and then gives birth to various grains. It's a bit strange, I know, but it connects food and fertility in a rather unexpected way.
Okay, that's definitely out there, but I guess it reflects the importance of agriculture in early Japanese society. Even something as seemingly mundane as a leech could be woven into a story about sustenance and abundance.
Precisely. And it highlights the Kojiki's tendency to find the divine in the everyday. Even the smallest creatures and actions can be imbued with symbolic meaning.
So, after this deep dive, what's the big takeaway for our listener? Why should we care about these ancient stories today? I mean, they're fascinating, but what's their lasting impact?
Well, the Kojiki is more than just a collection of myths and legends. It's really this foundational text that has profoundly shaped Japanese culture and identity.
In what ways?
Well, it's stories about the creation of Japan, the divine lineage of the emperors, the struggles and triumphs of heroes have resonated through the centuries, influencing everything from religious practices to art and literature.
So it's like a blueprint for Japanese culture.
In a way, yes. Even today, you can see echoes of the Kojiki in Shinto rituals, in traditional festivals, and in the way Japanese people view their relationship with nature and the spirit world.
It's incredible to think that these stories, written so long ago, still hold so much power and relevance today. It's like a conversation across time, connecting us to the very roots of a culture.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of the Kojiki. It invites us to explore not only the past, but also ourselves. It asks us to consider what it means to be human, to grapple with life's challenges, and to find meaning in our own journeys.
You know, after hearing all these stories, I can't help but wonder how these myths continue to influence Japanese culture today. It's like we've only scratched the surface of this ancient wisdom.
And that's the great thing about the Kojiki. It's a text that rewards continual exploration. There's so many layers to uncover, so many different interpretations.
So, dear listener, we encourage you to delve deeper into the Kojiki, read the stories, ponder their meanings, and see how they resonate with your own life. You might be surprised at what you discover.
Eyes are not just 相爱的这等